Thousands of people died. Dozens of dragons were burned out of the sky. A whole family slowly destroyed itself. And all of it happened because one man was too soft to make the obvious choice. Viserys I is remembered as the peaceful king. But I'm going to show you today that he was the most reckless ruler in the history of Westeros. Not because he was cruel, not because he was dumb, but because he let his feelings get in the way of his job, and the realm paid for it in blood for generations. And the worst part? The answer was right in front of him the whole time. His name was Daemon Targaryen, and if Viserys had named him heir instead of Rhaenyra, the Dance of Dragons never happens. The dragons don't die. The Targaryens don't fall. All of it gone, just because of one choice that every single person in that small council room knew was the right one, except the man on the throne. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what the realm would have looked like if Viserys had done the obvious thing. Because by the end of this video, I promise you, you will never watch House of the Dragon the same way again. Here's something the show wants you to forget. When Viserys named Rhaenyra his heir, the realm was not happy. The realm was not inspired. The realm was confused and angry, and they hid it behind polite smiles, because you don't tell the king he's wrong to his face. Because Daemon was already there. Daemon was already acting like the heir. He ran the city watch. He rode Caraxes, a dragon that had been to war. He was the king's own brother, a grown man, a proven leader, and by every rule Westeros had ever followed, he was next in line. The Great Council of 101, the same council Viserys used to claim the throne over Rhaenys, clearly said that a man comes before a woman in the line of succession. Viserys built his whole kingship on that rule, and then he broke it for his daughter. The hypocrisy is huge when you actually stop and think about it. So when people act like naming Daemon would have been some crazy risky move, no, naming Rhaenyra was the risky move. Naming Daemon was the safe, expected, normal choice that every lord in Westeros had already prepared for. Viserys didn't make a brave choice when he named Rhaenyra. He made an emotional one. And there's a huge difference between those two things when you're a king. Now let's talk about who Daemon actually was by the time Viserys died, because I think people forget this. Daemon spent years as the prince, and what did he do with that time? He won the Stepstones, almost completely on his own. Without the crown's full backing, without Viserys helping him properly, he built an army, fought a brutal war against the Triarchy, one of the strongest naval powers in the world at the time, and he won. He stood on a battlefield and crowned himself king of the Narrow Sea. That's not the resume of an unstable madman. That's the resume of a real warrior. A man who picks a goal, goes to war, and comes back a winner. Now compare that to Aegon II, the man who actually ended up on the throne. What had Aegon done before Otto put a crown on his head? Nothing. He was drunk and chasing women around King's Landing, while Daemon was out there fighting real wars. The difference is almost embarrassing. And I want to be fair to Rhaenyra here, because she was put in an impossible spot. But she also had no army experience, no wars she had won on her own. Nothing that would make a doubtful lord look her in the eye and think, yes, I'll follow this person into battle. She was a teenage girl given a title, and then left completely unprepared for what defending that title would actually take. Daemon walks into that throne room with scars, with a dragon that has seen real fighting, with lords who have heard stories about him and aren't sure if they're true, and that fear alone is worth more than any official announcement. Because in Westeros, the king who makes men nervous is the king who keeps the peace. Let's talk about Otto Hightower, because Otto is the real engine behind this whole disaster, and not enough people give him credit for how smart and evil his plan actually was. Otto looked at the situation and saw one thing: Rhaenyra is a weak heir. Not weak as a person, weak politically. People didn't fully accept her. All he had to do was get his daughter into the king's bed, give him a son, and wait. Wait for Viserys to die. Wait for the realm's doubts about a female heir to do the work for him. It's honestly one of the most patient and clever plans in the whole show. And it worked. It worked because Viserys was the perfect target. Viserys wanted peace so badly that he avoided every problem until it blew up in his face. He wanted to believe the best in people, so he ignored Otto's plotting until it was way too late. He was a good man in a job that needed someone willing to be ruthless. Now put Daemon in that picture. Actually think about it. Daemon hated Otto Hightower from the second he met him. Not out of jealousy, out of pure instinct. He saw exactly what Otto was doing and called it out every chance he got. He had zero patience for the kind of slow, smiling, polite manipulation that Otto was so good at. You really think Otto Hightower is going to pull off his little scheme against Daemon? The man who dragged a gold cloak through the streets for failing his duty? The man who went to war in the Stepstones, basically out of spite, and won? Otto's whole plan needs a king who can be controlled, and Daemon cannot be controlled. That's not a weakness, that's a strength. The moment Daemon is confirmed as heir, Otto's plan becomes useless. There's no shaky succession to take advantage of. There's no weak heir to undermine. There's no opening. No Otto scheme means no Alicent placed as queen. Or if she does become queen, she has no mission. She's just a wife, not the mother of a rival king with a goal. The whole Green faction never forms. And without the Greens, there is no war. It's that simple. I want you to really think about what the confusion of Viserys' reign actually cost. Because the Dance of Dragons is not a war that started because two sides hated each other. It started because nobody could agree on who was supposed to be in charge. Viserys named Rhaenyra heir, then married Alicent and had sons, and then never, ever clearly fixed that contradiction. He let both sides believe they had a real claim. He died without making his wishes clear to the people who needed to hear them the most. The whole war is built on a misunderstanding that Viserys created and then refused to fix. That's the thing that should make you angry when you watch this show. It wasn't fate, it wasn't bad luck, it was failure. Royal, massive failure dressed up as kindness. Daemon doesn't do confusion. That's just not who he is. The moment he becomes king, he makes the rules clear, names his heir, and makes it obvious what happens to anyone who tries to challenge him. No mixed signals. No letting rival groups build power in his own court. He rules like a man who understands that a king who tries to please everyone ends up protecting no one. And Rhaenyra in this version is not pushed aside. She's powerful. She and Daemon were drawn to each other the whole show, and they almost certainly still end up together. She becomes his queen. She has real power. She just gets to do it from a safe place, instead of spending her whole life fighting for a throne that was promised to her and then slowly taken away while her father watched and did nothing. Here's the part that honestly doesn't get talked about enough, and it might be the worst thing of all. The Dance of Dragons didn't just kill people, it killed the dragons. Before the war, House Targaryen had more than a dozen living dragons. After the war, a handful. 2 generations later, none. And without their dragons, the Targaryens were just another noble family with a fancy castle and an old story. The dragons were the whole reason they had power, not their blood, not their name, not even the Iron Throne. The dragons. And they lost them killing each other. Vhagar, Melees, Caraxes, Sunfire, Seasmoke. Some of the greatest creatures that ever lived, all gone in just a few years because Viserys created a world where his own children had no choice but to burn each other out of the sky. With Daemon as heir, that doesn't happen. Those dragons live. They grow. They get riders. A Targaryen family with 12 living dragons isn't just strong, it's untouchable for centuries. You're not just preventing one civil war, you're potentially rewriting the whole history of Westeros. Every king who came after the dance ruled with a shadow of what the Targaryens used to be. With Daemon as heir, there is no shadow, there is only fire. So why didn't Viserys do it? He loved his daughter. That's the whole answer. A father looked at his little girl and decided she deserved the throne, and in trying to give her everything, he gave her a war instead. And I'm not even saying he was wrong to love her. I'm saying love is not how you run a kingdom. Feelings are not a plan. When you sit on the Iron Throne, your emotions are a luxury that the realm can't afford. Daemon would have been a scary king. Lords would have hated him. There would have been tension and probably even a few assassination attempts. But they would have obeyed. Because fear, in Westeros, is what obedience actually looks like. Viserys wanted to be remembered as a good man, and he got his wish. He is remembered as a good man who watched his family plant the seeds of its own destruction and called it love. Daemon Targaryen was not the realm's problem. He was the only answer to it.